Trump just gave Micron, the stock market, 24 hours, but then totally flipped. Plus, a Chinese competitor could be a real threat to Micron's business. What could that potentially do to the stock long term? We're going to talk about that. And the stock market, how the stock market could react to everything that's happening over this weekend, and how it could potentially, with a shortened week, because it is Memorial Day on Monday, so you only have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday trading days, how could that potentially affect what's going to be happening? Hello, beautiful people. Shalom, money makers. So first, we found out that we have the pizza index around the Pentagon, which tracks the amount of pizza being delivered by Domino's into the Pentagon. Usually we see a spike when there's something that's going on, when there's potentially going to be something that the Pentagon employees need to stay longer hours. And we're hearing more and more about the potential of the US, Iran, Israel conflict rejumping. President Trump said he's preparing a fresh round of US military strikes, according to CBS News. President Trump and some members of the U.S. military and intelligence community canceled their plans for Memorial Day weekend in anticipation of possible strikes. President Trump even canceled his attendance to his son's wedding. So, that happened. But then a report came that the U.S. and Iran are closing on a deal that would extend their ceasefire by 60 days and lay the framework for discussions on the nuclear program, mediators say. The details include this would include a gradual opening of the Strait of Hormuz. It would also include a commitment to discussing and the diluting handing over of Iran's highly enriched uranium. The U.S. would ease into a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz and agree to sanctions relief. And the U.S. would also begin a phase of unfreezing of Iran's assets. Both sides are nearing a what's this word? Memorandum of understanding to extend a ceasefire. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm sitting and waiting and anticipating to see what's going to happen, and that could potentially affect the markets. Before we continue, please read the disclaimer. I forgot to run that at the beginning. Technical difficulty time. And listen, the stock markets did amazing, right? They did amazing over the past few weeks. Every major U.S. stock market index just had its highest weekly close ever in history. Forget about the Iran war, forget about the Strait of Hormuz, forget about the Fed, forget about the U.S. stock market does not care of anything right now. S&P 500 is up 18% in 8 weeks, NASDAQ up 28% in 8 weeks, Russell up 18%, Dow making all-time highs. The extraordinary thing about this recovery, it has happened against every headwind imaginable. Active war in the Middle East, oil at $100, inflation at 3.8%, bond yields at 19-year highs. None of this stopped the rally. The two things that drove it above everything else, Nvidia posting $81.6 billion in revenue and $325 billion in AI apex flowing through the entire economy like rocket fuel. The market is not ignoring the risk. It is betting that AI capex is bigger than all of them combined. So far, it is winning for those who are long, right? Those who are short are not doing so good right now. And this will be very interesting to see what happens in the next coming weeks. Right now, we saw the S&P 500 not at all-time highs, right? Because it did pull back a little bit. Also NASDAQ, but we are very, very close. There are some stocks like Microsoft that might not be at its close to its high. Meta is not very close to its high. Amazon, pretty close to its high. ARM, new highs, just going, already 326 billion. And of course, the Nvidia actually pulled back after earnings, which was surprising, right? But still doing good. AMD creating new all-time highs, right? We had Micron that recovered a little bit, but then pulled back. And we'll get to Micron and SanDisk in just a second, which actually SanDisk pulled down 4% on Friday. There are other companies like Skyworks Solution that were pumping up 12%. It's also Chipmaker and Qorvo, that is Qorvo, QRVO, that is also similar to Skyworks, also popped about 8.89%. Of course, we had the energy stocks that some pulled up a little bit, some pulled down on Friday. So kind of mixed bag. The quantum stocks continue to pop. Rigetti up another 20% there on Friday. Qubit also pumping. So after that big headline that President Trump was going to invest in the quantum companies, of course, we saw those big movements. Now, we have talked about Micron a lot on the channel, and there was a headline that came out that memory prices could collapse as China rapidly floods the market with DRAM and NAND chips, right? China's CXMT RAM is selling for 150, while the global average price is around 300 or 400. Chinese memory giants CXMT and YMTC are aggressively ramping production, threatening the dominance of Samsung, SK, Hynix, and Micron. Okay, CXMT now controls 7% of the global DRAM market, and YMTC already holds 11 to 13% of the global NAND flash market. And CXMT revenue already exploded 719% year over year in quarter one, 2026 to 50.8 billion won, which is about 7.4 billion, swinging from losses to massive profits. Chinese memory chips are often priced 15% below the competitors, making them highly attractive for consumer PC servers and storage devices. Corsair already testing the DDR5 models using CXMT chips, while other brands like Acer and Asus asking suppliers to source Chinese memory. China's strategy is simple: flood memory market with cheap DRAM and NAND chips, undercut competitors, and global market share. So this is going to be very, very interesting and important. And I asked Grok here, what does he think could potentially happen specific with Micron? He says Micron is leading producer in both DRAM and NAND, right? So it's 79% from DRAM. It has shifted focus toward high margin data centers and AI products. So this, on the one hand, the Chinese could take some of the chunk of their business from more retail stuff like Acer and Asus, right? That's what it said there, yeah. But on the flip side, Micron has gone heavy on the AI data centers and AI products. And it says here, DRAM side, biggest exposure, CMTC aggressive expansion, and entry into consumer supply chains directly pressures commodity DRAM pricings for PC, laptops, and mobile. This masks the original post concerns about flooding and discount. Micron and other incumbents have seen consumer-grade supply loosen as they prioritize AI server memory. Mitigating factors, Micron's HBM high bandwidth memory for AI accelerators is sold out through 2026, carries much higher margins, and Chinese firms lag significantly in advanced HBM. CXMT is targeting HBM3 domestically by the end of 2026, but isn't competitive yet at scale. And overall DRAM demand remains robust due to AI, so broad price collapse are unlikely, though commodity DDR5 and DDR4 pricing could face downward pressures. The net effect, margins in lower-end DRAM could compress, and some market shares erosion is possible in consumer channels. However, Micron's AI-driven revenue boom, record quarters with 70% gross margins recently, provides a strong buffer. So on the one hand, they might lose in one aspect, but on the other hand, their other situation might go up significantly. You know, I keep getting reminded about a stock that has been also going up significantly over the past few months, and is Nokia, right? And you think to yourself, wait a second, Nokia? You mean those phones that we used to have back in the 90s and 2000s, right? Late 90s and 2000s? Yeah, Nokia. And you might be saying to yourself, wait a second, Avi, I haven't seen a Nokia phone in such a long time. And you're right, because that's not what Nokia does anymore. So they totally shifted from their original business, which was the phones, right? And they shifted their business, and look at how the stock has run since December of 2023 from $2 all the way up to $15. Basically, right, this is a 476% shift. Basically, they have changed totally their business model, and instead of selling telephones, they're selling infrastructure. So all the 4G, 5G infrastructure, a lot of what's happening is going through Nokia, and they totally shifted their business. So it's just, I wanted to show you this to, again, to put you onto this, because this stock is doing amazing. Now, again, there's always the possibility that it pulls back. I don't know, but this run up has, been amazing on Nokia. But to also show you that sometimes a stock might have competitors or might lose business in one area in order to grow in another area where they see that there's maybe less competition, not to their level, and there's a lot of potential growth to come there. And that's what we're seeing for Micron. So it will be very interesting to see how the next 24 hours to 48 hours play out. With Memorial Day, it will be very interesting to see, because what does President Trump do? Does he, attack, wait for the markets to open, or maybe for the markets to react, or maybe it's better to attack before, like maybe on Monday, maybe on Memorial Day, which kind of, I don't know if he would do that, but then the markets couldn't react to that. So this is going to be very interesting to see how this is going to play out. Let me know in the comment section, what do you think? Do you think he's going to attack? Do you think it's not going to attack? What do you think the markets are going to do? Do you think the stock market is going to crash? Is it going to pull back like it did last time because it might be overbought and people might be over leveraged? That could be a possibility. So that's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen in the next 24 to 48 hours in the stock market. Let me know in the comment section, what do you think? Thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time. And like I always say, let's make a lot of money.